clay is just like a notebook. You gather information, piece of information, and drop that information into the clay. You should decide what your question is. I want to work on that bit. What's the relationship of that to that? Where's the boundary line between that form and that form? What's the curve? Whatever question you've got, come and find it. Because we want the reference points here, the width of the chin, the width of the cheeks, to be in place, so that when we start to fill and start to put the planes in, we know those points, we're going to go through those points, not be beyond them or inside them. The first layer of information that the clay can carry is where the clay sits, just getting it right. And as you get more and more experience, you'll understand that the clay can carry different types of information. For example, how hard you put the clay on is information. And what you see that this bit here is quite hard and tough, and this bit here is quite soft. So the way you handle clay gives it a different quality and a different feel. Stand back from your work, get a sense of the overall thing. Don't get stuck into the detail. Don't get stuck into doing new things or changing something small. So where it's where this side has come more forward than that side, yeah. At this stage, you need to make sure you've got a level going through this plane. And although they're in the right place,
they need balancing.
Yeah, it definitely needs balancing. I think his eye's further back in as well.
Right.
Yeah, so I just cut a plane of where I think the front of his eye is and what angle it's on, and take all that off, take some of that off, and then do the same from this side, and then see if they balance from the front. Yeah. If I was doing a commission, I wouldn't go any further until the basic structure was really looking like the person. Yeah, it's really important, because any fiddling won't make it, any detail, any small amounts of change won't make it look more like the person. The eyeball has to be contained by the bones, otherwise it's going to pop out. Yeah. So the ridges that we find around the eyes are really important, and placing them in a way that can contain the eyeball is really important. Looking from below, you can start to see the curve along that. Very experienced, you can look at all these layers at the same time. So as you put one piece of clay on that's going in the right place, it's carrying the information about pressure, it's carrying the information about speed, it's carrying the information about texture, and it gets very, very rich. So today I wanted to change the tack a bit from being something that's technical into going something that's a little bit more creative. Because if you constantly look at the technical thing, where does this live, where does that live, it just ends up very dry. It's not an intellectual thing. It's just, it's that quality. That person carries a certain quality, and what we have to do a portrait is find out what those qualities are. So a really good busy studio is fantastic, and you shouldn't wait until Chris turns round to face you and just work on that bit. We start to look at the width of the head and adding the width. Again, we need to look at reference points. Yeah, and the lines that go around the head, the hairline, the line around the brow, the line around the zygomatic arch, and the line around the jaw are the most important because they frame. So we've got to think around how to kind of portray more than just shape. We'll look at the poetry of the head, and by that I mean what's the rhythm, what's the movement, are there any repeating shapes that kind of, you read a poem and there's a meter in a poem and it kind of repeats in different lines, and that gives it a kind of gives it a meter.
Rhythm.
Thank you, rhythm. And the same in a head, similar to once you start to look for those things. But if you're just looking at where the shapes are in space, your mind isn't switched to start to look at those sorts of things. And by trickling information in this direction, the clays start to get more and more and more and more detailed and more exciting. So the more experience you get, the more things you can look at the same time. Because it will go in the wrong place, you have to hold both of those at the same time. You have to put it in the right place and have the right rhythm. A smooth head that's done very smoothly, has a much more restricted language. The marks that you make are the same marks basically over the whole head because it's very smooth, dense, compacted. I'm going to recap what we've done. We've broken it down into easily understandable chunks. The first way to do that is to identify a point or a place or something that you can grasp. The model will have a mole or something, or the model will have a something that you can say, I can see that point and I'm going to measure to it, I'm going to identify that, I'm going to relate it to something else that I know. So from the stick that goes through the centre of the head, you start working to points. So the training, if you like, is to start identifying points on the model's head that are obvious. Yeah. And then from points we've gone into profile, a 2D shape, and looked at curves. And we've looked at the way you can fit a ball into a curve to get an idea of the tightness of the speed of that curve. What sort of shape? Would it be a marble, or would it be a tomato, or a tennis ball, or a grapefruit, or a football, to get a tightness of a curve, to give you an idea. And then from 2D we've gone to 3D, almost like a line of wire that goes around. We put string on the model's head, and we started to look around lines that go around the model's head. And that starts to help us see the tightness of movement and direction, and starts to link the brow, the hairline, the brow, the zygomatic arch and the jaw. And then from there, it's a matter of starting to look at the forms, which is what we were doing yesterday. And the other aspect will be the tonal qualities that the marks make. If you blur your eyes and look at somebody, you don't really see the 3D, you just see 2D representation, and you see a kind of a shadowy kind of, some dark and some light. And we want to try and mimic that in our work.
Mimic it?
Mimic it. Mimic the perception of the shadow. You get to a place where everything's in the right place, and then you have to start manipulating the form to make the shadows work. So it may mean that if you make a lip exactly the right shape, it doesn't look like a lip, because the lip is coloured. The lip's got different colours on it, so you need to change the plane to make the lip look darker. It may be that the eyebrow, you put the eyebrow in exactly the right place, but it doesn't give the tonal quality of the eyebrow. So you have to make it darker. So you have to dig out. This is something not a lot of sculptors work on. Yeah, and not a lot of portrait sculptors that I know around it. So you have to look from 3 directions. So 75% of your time should be looking. 25% of your time modelling. Yeah, and when I've been in a really good studio, you can hardly get to the model, because everyone's spending most of their time here, moving around, looking, asking questions, and then they go to their work. There was one of the, while I'm at it, there was one of the Impressionist teachers, Impressionist painters who used to teach, and he had these, you know, the houses in Paris are like 6 stories tall. He had the model at the top and the easels at the bottom. Yeah? So the students had to go up all the stairs, go to the top, look at the model, remember one thing really clearly, and then run down the stairs and do it. So it meant that they had to train themselves just to look for something they could answer, something simple and clear. Yeah? And it's kind of, we get to the model, we don't know what questions to ask. It's kind of all too confusing. So try and have something really simple.
I'm so tired of being here, suppressed by all my